switch on my camera.
Okay. So we are live now, and good evening, everyone. My name is Abhinav Pradhan. I'm the co-founder of Myedubag. Welcome to today's webinar on stress management, the Bhagavad Gita and the Quran way. So Myedubag is an initiative in school education by I Deserve Education Private Limited. We are based in Delhi, India. We are operational from 2018, and we work in 4 different segments of school education. The first is self-learning, wherein we give academic and non-academic content to the school students. Then we are into the distribution of school books. Then we are into the publishing of the school books. We have a lot of value-added services for the schools, teachers, and the students. Currently, we are active in 190 schools across India, and we have 110,000 consumers, which are spread in various states of the country. And to address various issues, today we are organizing a session on stress management with reference from the Bhagavad Gita and the Quran. We have 2 eminent scholars with us. We have Prabhu Vrajras Das, who is based in Delaware, USA, and another scholar is Dr. Sule Dursun, who is based in Austria, Europe. So we are still unable to connect with her, so it might take some time. So meanwhile, we will start with Vrajras Prabhu. So let me give you his introduction. His Grace Vrajras Das is a monk in the Bhakti tradition and has been studying, practicing, and sharing the teachings of Bhagavad Gita over the last 2 decades. His deep desire to grow in spiritual life and serve humanity inspired him to dedicate his life to this cause and join the monastery of ISKCON Chowpatty in Mumbai about 15 years back, where he has taken systematic training in spiritual literatures. Over the years, he has been inspiring hundreds of youth all over the world through practical application of spiritual practices to improve the quality of life and better living. For over 10 years, he has also been an education minister at Govardhan Eco Village, a sustainable and eco-friendly village awarded as the best place for ecotourism by United Nations. At present, he is based in USA at Bhakti Yoga Society of Delaware as a teacher and counselor. Another scholar which we have is Dr. Sule Dursun. So right now we are not able to connect her, but I would like to give her introduction. She is a lecturer at the University of Vienna, Institute of Islamic Theological Studies and Islamic Religion teacher in a public school in Vienna, Austria. Her doctor thesis is also from the University of Vienna. Her focus was about the relationship between higher education and religiosity of Muslim and Turkish women in Vienna. Now, to start the session, I would also like to give you a little overview of education sector and the stress. So education is, obviously, we all know that it's an insurance. It gives us guarantee for comfortable and dignified life. It is the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, values, and beliefs. In fact, it is the most potent tool for the complete development of individual and the society. It is a well known that quality of nation depends upon the quality of its citizens. The quality of the citizen depends upon the education system, as education is imparted by teachers, and if the teacher is capable, energetic, and mentally healthy, it is good for the school and a matter of joy for the society as well. And in today's world, as nobody is stress-free, teachers are also human beings. They also suffer from stress. Stress is a very serious problem if it crosses the limit. It is a feeling of emotional or physical tension and may cause several other problems among teachers if it is not tackled properly on time. So holy books such as the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Quran, and the Bible are considered as oceans of knowledge. So to start the session, I hand over this session to Vrajras Prabhu.
Thank you, Abhinavji, so much for allowing me to be a part of this webinar. My deepest gratitude to my Myedubag team, and I'm really grateful to Dr. Sule that she will be also joining us today here to speak her views on stress management through Quran. And as Abhinavji introduced me, so he's just exaggerated. I'm not that great. So let's begin. And today, in today's scenario, in this morning today, I got a message on WhatsApp, and the message was saying that the schools in India are going to conduct exams, and these exams are going to be conducted under the stress of the very biggest pandemic which is happening now, that is the coronavirus. And it's a very big news, and every channel and every reporter is talking about how the government, how the people, how the parents, and everyone are going to face this stress where their children have to go to the school. There are many difficulties they're going to face in that way. The kind of communication, public transport, and the classroom will be separated. And so it's a very big stressful situation currently going on. And it's not the time now, but the time bygone ages, it has been observed that stress is something which is there in everyone's life. And it was also present 5,000 years ago with one of the greatest warrior, one of the greatest student, one of the greatest teacher, Arjuna, who was in the midst of the battlefield, and he was experiencing immense stress of his duties. He was facing stress of his killing his own relatives. So this was Arjuna 5,000 years back. How can we correlate the situation of Arjuna with us today? We are going to understand. So before we deep dive into the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and try to understand the perspective of what is stress by the way of Bhagavad Gita, let me introduce you to you what is stress, what are the types of stress. So as we see that people are talking about stress, and as soon as the word stress is registered to the mind, all of a sudden a person thinks it to be a negative word. And that's where I just want to bring to the light that stress is not a negative word only, but it can be a positive word also. So it's eustress and distress. Eustress is something which is pleasant, which a person wants, that kind of a stress, you know. And distress is an unpleasant or disease producing stress. Uncontrolled stress, a negative cause may lead to a compromised immune systems, illness, and even death. And that's what we are experiencing in today's world. So we can define stress as it is a state of mind which distorts a comfortable way of living. Now, I want to bring to all of you understanding where stress is a form of a tension in the body. You know, when a person is under stress, one becomes like a car. You know, when a car is in the neutral gear with the accelerator on, trying to exert internally and creating voice, like that. So stress is an essential ingredient for the normal functioning of the body. Unless there is stress not provided sufficiently, the car cannot move ahead, right? And that's where we need to understand that the stress is not created in the outside world. It is not something which is an action or activity done outside in the world. It is an activity done within. And that's where the stress is created in the mind. And I'm going to just present to you in a very quick way that how we can understand that how it is a part of the body, the mind. So very first thing is, whatever we see in this world, we register it. Whatever sound is created, whatever gesture is created by people, and it acts like a stimuli, and it works on the intellect. And then if one is not aware of stress which is generated in the mind, is passing first to the intellect. And if intellect is not aware, then the stress generated in mind needs a corrective action. And that corrective action, once not found, it increases the stress level. So that's how the stress works on the mind level. Stress is also a disease. The word "these" is, so it's like a statutory warning, that one has to understand. Every smoking cigarette packet is written as a warning is written. Smoking is injurious for health. So we need to understand that while people are talking about stress, it's a disease. And these ease means there's a caution given that one has to become at ease. Now is the time you become at ease. Don't be stressful. Okay. Just like the temperature of a body is supposed to be 98.6 Fahrenheit, we don't have to bring it to zero, right? The temperature has to be maintained. But when the temperature goes above 103 Fahrenheit, then the problem arises. Similarly, when the stress level in our system is left unchecked and uncontrolled, then it affects our psychology. And psychologically, our immune system is also affected, like a silent killer. So guess what? Stress is predicted to be the major killer of the 21st century, not AIDS or cancer. And you may say, come on, it's coronavirus. Coronavirus is something which is more dangerous than stress. So I'll share with you a personal example. And a thing happened with me. I was flying from India. I was flying from US to India last March, like around 5th of March, when the coronavirus thing was just picking up. Things were starting up in China, and I was bombarded with a lot of news, and that coronavirus is spreading, and it's going to be so dangerous, and so many things are going to happen, and you have to be cautious of everything. But the government of America was not that cautious at the time, and I took the flight from New York, and I ride the bus from Delaware to New York, a Chinese bus where all Chinese were sitting inside. Can you believe that? And I got down in New York at Chinatown. And after getting down in New York at Chinatown, I stayed in the Manhattan area, which is one of the like a Bowery area. And then I took a flight from JFK. And all this thing geared up a lot of stress in myself, And though we talk about managing stress, but when it comes to manage stress, it's become difficult. And this time, I was feeling quite stressed about the coronavirus thing. And that's the reason I kept my belly empty. And the flight was at night 12, and I got a nausea in the plane. And that nausea was nothing but stress. And that's how the stress worked on me. And it works on you. And every one of us. The immune system is attacked. What happens? Immune system attacks, and you don't have the energy to fight with the immunity. We have Dr. Sule out here, and she's going to maybe give some very biological answer to that. So moving ahead, I just want to say that look at the world around us socially. How much stress and tension here it is. Uh, and we need to understand what is the source of stress. And today, as we are focusing specifically to the teachers, so we just want to put forward some points that the teachers might be facing stress in their regular life, like financial constraints, workload, fast changing education, no acknowledgement, promotion and position, jealousy, thinking too much about the result. These are all the factors as a student I incurred in my school that teachers might have gone. And as a teacher on value and ethics, I believe that all our teachers are facing such problems. So this is a very dire need now in this today's world. The WHO today, this is not a very old news. It's just like 2 days back, the WHO director, he just told in an interview that the corona thing is taking it very high. The peaks are, it's going on its peak, and as the countries are coming out and locking down, the lockdown is open and everything is so public now, so there is no question of social distancing. So even WHO is in stress that how do we manage it. So that's where the stress is all about. And I hand over to Abhinav. Oh, Dr. Sule is here. Dr. Sule
Yeah.
can continue. Thank you
So,
so
Dr.
much.
Sule, thank you for joining us. I have already given you an introduction to the people, and there was some technical issue while connecting with you.
Okay.
So, our first question was that what is stress? Like, how do you define stress? What are your views on stress?
Firstly, I would like to find and share my presentation with you,
Yeah.
which I have prepared. Well, some seconds, please.
Yeah, please.
Okay. This one. So can you see my presentation?
No, it's not visible here. So, I think you can read it in case if it's not getting connected.
Mm-hmm.
You can just
Okay.
read.
So we shouldn't lose much time. Okay, I would like to start with a small definition of stress.
Right.
And I would like to focus on some areas which are in my field. I would like to focus on the religious perspective.
Yeah.
So there is an expert, if we speak about stress, Hans Selye. He's from Vienna, and
Okay.
he has a small definition. He says stress is the non-specific response of the body to any demand.
Okay.
And in general, in a medical or biological context, stress is a physical, mental, or emotional factor that causes bodily or mental tension. Stresses can be external, from the environment, psychological or social situations, or internal, illness, or from a medical procedure. Stress can initiate the fight or flight response, a complex reaction of neurologic and different systems. I think this small definition is enough. I would like to go to the relationship between stress and religion.
Right.
And I would like to mention some scholars like James William, Gordon William Allport, Erik Erikson. For example, James William also focus on the religion and tells us that religion has the power to transform sadness to happiness. Gordon William Allport says that religion corrects people's moral attitudes and strengthens the character of the human beings. And religion also saves the human beings from doubts, hopelessness, and different kinds of problems. And also Erik Erikson tells us that religion is a spiritual cover and saves us from different problems. Let's have a look from the Islamic perspective.
Yes.
Muhammad Iqbal is a famous Islamic scholar. And like the other scholars, also Muhammad Iqbal tells us that religion has the aim to strengthen the character of the human beings. And in general, he says that the man is weak and is surrounded with doubts and negative emotions. His point of view, we can also find it in several Quranic verses. The Quran underlines that that the human being is created in a nicest way, for example, but and in the other side, he is also weak and have to be, or have to, the people have to handle with different problems in their lives. And also Muhammad Iqbal says that the aim of the religion is to give a meaning, an important meaning to life, and to change the moral attitudes of the human beings. If this definition is enough, I would like to go to my next chapter.
Yeah.
My next chapter would be teaching of the Quran. And we can also...
So I think, Dr. Shule, I think if first we should ask Rajras Prabhu, because teaching of Quran, we'll come to that in the next question. So first ask Rajras Prabhu about how does he... Just a minute, I'll just check. Yeah. So like, what are the sayings of Bhagavad Gita when we talk from the stress point of view? So over to you, Rajas Prabhu. After this, Dr. Shula, I'll come to you and we'll talk about the sayings of Quran on stress.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Over to you, Rajas.
I would like to combine your questions with the teaching of the Quran.
Yeah. So we will mix it up. Meanwhile, let us first talk to Rajas Prabhu about the sayings of Bhagavad Gita on stress, and then we'll come back to you over the next section. Will that be fine?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Sule, for giving such a wonderful insight on the stress. And so let's continue understanding stress from the Gita point of view also. And we know that Lord Krishna instructs in Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna is saying to Arjuna, that you're a warrior who is suffering in a situation of extreme stress on a battlefield, overwhelmed by fear and ignorance, and has failed to see beyond the fear of death. So Krishna therefore begins his instructions by informing Arjuna of a higher knowledge. initially we understood that stress is on the mind level and we need to control the mind. And that's where in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna that while speaking learned words, Arjuna, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. This is the very highest philosophy to understand that we are not the body, we are the soul. Now we are talking to the teachers of the world, and these teachers are the future leaders of the society who are going to create other future leaders, and that's going to multiply by 1,000 and million of times. So all these leaders of the society, where they are created, they are born within the walls of institutions, universities, schools, classes, and all those places. So to the degree we as teachers influence others, to that same degree we have a very serious business to take up those responsibilities. And we need to understand that teachers are also human beings. And when they constantly work under a stressful condition, it is not good for their health. So teachers are generally found in specific type of occupational stress. Their stress is little different from others. And we need to understand that how does Bhagavad Gita inspires us to follow the values and ethics. Bhagavad Gita says, Yadyat achrati shrestha tat evat trugnaha satyat praman kurte lokastat anuvartate. Whatever action is performed by a great man, common man follows in his footsteps. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the words pursues. So we understand that what great and influential people do, the common people will follow that. So teachers, their contribution is most important, and how they continue their life, how they continue their teaching is important, and that's where there is to be stress-free. The major problem is that how to resolve the stress. So before that, I'm going to give an example that how important it is to understand that stress is very important part of our life. There are few students in structural engineering and architecture engineering, and the engineering has major problem is stress. Now it's very natural in this world that everything is under the controls of force of gravity. Being a science student, a physicist, I've studied about this stress tension. So when you construct a building trying to push up and the gravity is pushing it down, so there is stress. So engineers know that the beginning of the solving of problem is a very strong foundation to be required. The problem will be solved when there will be strong foundation. So without a strong foundation, anything else you do in the building won't have longevity. When there is a stressful condition created by the nature, like a storm or rain and tsunami and so many other things, what is important that the foundation of the building has to be strong. So therefore, the strong foundation is essential to uphold the building. Individually and collectively, everyone is in stress. And that's where Bhagavad Gita says, it says, Dehino ismin yatha dehi kaumaram yovanam jana tatha dehantar praptir dhirastatra muhyati. As the soul, embodied soul continues passes from a boyhood to old age, to middle age to old age, and he goes in death and he's reborn. So that's how we need to understand that if we are considering ourselves to be the body, then our expectations are basically far beyond. There's a wide gap between our expectations and actual reality. And Bhagavad Gita is again saying that when that expectations are not fulfilled, then what is generated is fear. And we need to understand over here that when fear is generated, when there is no expectations fulfilled. And that's the reason Krishna is again saying, Krishna is saying, talking about attachment. He's talking that dhayato vishya pumsha sangasta jivaraya te sanjat sanjayate kamah kamat krodha bhijayate. So it is a tendency of the human mind that while contemplating the objects of senses, starts developing attachment. And from that attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. So this is what we need to understand. That if you want to control your expectations, if you want to control your desires and streamline them in the right direction, you have to train your mind. Thus, managing stress has a lot to do with managing the mind. And this is how we need to understand that Krishna is saying to Arjuna that what is the mind all about, right? And that's where we need to understand that the mind is a subtle aspect of the body. It is not the gross body. And that's where we see here that the mind, intelligence, and false ego are the subtle part of the body. The gross body is made of earth, water, fire, and ether. And deep inside, the soul is sitting. And that's how the mind functions, as I've shown here, that, intelligence is like the CPU, mind is the software, and the inputs are given through eyes, nose, tongues, ears, and skins. The output is given through hands, legs, your speech. So when so many things are involved, and they are all, the action and inaction is happening through the thoughts, storehouse of thoughts, mind, past worries, future dreams. How will be the results of the student? I'm going to do that. How I'm going to deal with this high standard, high class of students coming from high class societies. So this is all how the function of the mind is. And that's why Krishna says, for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. And that's where you have to develop detachment and you have to practice abhyas. So that's the way we need to understand. That is the way of Bhagavad Gita.
Right.
I like to hand it over to Suleji.
Yeah, Dr. Shule, another question which we wanted to focus on, that is like, what are the learnings from Quran when we talk about this stress?
Okay, we can gain several messages from the Quran verses. Let me see my presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. I can start with trust in God. Trusting God means that the person who is believing in God reduces stress in his daily life.
Right.
And I would like to read one verse from the Surah Baqarah. Allah does not charge a soul except its capacity. It's a nice message from God. I know that I only get problems which I can solve. I think it's a good message from God, and I can solve my problems. The problems are not bigger than my life. The next one would be to know that in life we have no accidents, and also related to this topic, a verse from Quran. And he has subjected for you the night and the day and the sun and the moon, and the stars are subjected by his command. In that are signs for people who reason, and whatever he multiplied for you on the earth of varying colors, in that is a sign for a people who remember. God wishes from people to see signs in the world, to trust God, and that no problem can be here in life unsolved.
Okay.
Means we can solve the problems through, as you also said, through our mind, through managing our, through controlling our emotions, and solve problems through using our mental strength. And we also gain concerning stress chapters through different stories of prophets, which are also model characters. The lives of the prophets always show that these people also had problems, and also had to be active and to manage the problems. And for a Muslim person, it's also, and also I think for in all religions, it's also a good message to know that everything in life is temporary. Also problems are temporary, and only the God or the power which we are believing is eternal. Everything is a test, and tests are also temporary points in our lives. And related to this topic, we can also find several verses from the Quran. For example, you will surely be tested in your possessions and in yourselves. Every soul will test death, and we test you with evil and with good as trial, and to us you will be returned. And we will surely test you with something of fear, hunger, and loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give good tidings to the patient who, when disaster strikes them, say, in that we belong to Allah, to God, and in that to Him we will return. If we think that our problems, that our negative emotions are temporary, we can also manage our mind and control all our emotions. Trust in God is also an important point we can gain from the Quran. Also an example from the Quran concerning this message. So by mercy from Allah, you were lenient with them. If you had been rude in speech and harsh in heart, they would have disbanded from about you. So pardon them and ask forgiveness for them and consult them in the matter. And when you have decided, then rely upon God. In that, God loves those who rely. We have to be active in our daily life, and we have to see or to pursue our aims. And then the last step would be to trust in God. For example, a student in a university, I do my best for an exam, and then I trust in God. And the last message would be to preserve optimism and hope. Only an example first from Quran. Oh my all my servants who have transgressed against themselves by sinning, do not despair of the sorry, I can't see my see my presentation.
Okay, okay.
Because it's a little bit difficult for me. Okay, now I can see my presentation. Do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins. Indeed, it is who is the forgiving, the merciful. The message from this verse is every one of us is making mistakes, and the most important part is to see the mistakes and learn from the mistakes, and to define new aims and new behaviors. Okay.
Right. Okay. So my next question is to Vrajras Prabhuji, and that is about the learning from Bhagavad Gita when we talk about stress. We already know because you have already given the sayings. Now, what are those learnings if you try to simplify it?
Okay.
Right.
So yeah, so he will be, and after that I'll be coming over to Dr. Shule.
Okay.
You are not audible, Vrajras Prabhuji.
Yeah. Thank you, Abhinavji.
Yeah.
Yeah. So generally in this kind of presentations, there is a lot of pause in between because sometimes the mute is on, you are unmuted, the slide is not on. It happens. So we need not go in stress for that. And
Right.
let's look for solutions to stress. What are the solutions to stress, or what are the learning from Bhagavad Gita for stress? So let me take you ahead in this area. So what is happening in the current scenario in the present world? Each of us are facing battlefield encountered every day, as we are threatened by inevitable attacks from disease, old age, and ultimately death. So, right from the birth, a child is under stress. He is forced to come out from the body of mother, and he's in immense pain, and that is a stress for the child. So stress is something which is always associated with the living entity. And if we have no more to rely on or depend on to understand what the life is all about, other than our resources, other than the body and the mind, then we are sure to suffer anxiety, since our support system is fallible and in fact sure to fail us. And in the garb of buttering our ego, we try to apply some psychological techniques as positive thinking or by the impersonal approach of meditation. But that process will also let us go in, our efforts go in vain. So only when we understand the strength of our position as eternal spirit souls, as soon as we can come out of the concept of body and we start understanding, yes, that we are something beyond this body and we are connected to the Supreme, then we'll be assured and confident. And then we can move through this battlefield of life, right? And that's where we need to understand that we are not human beings, but with a spiritual experience. Many times we go to the temple or mosque or church and we say that, wow, what an experience, spiritual experience I've got. But actually we need to understand that that is not an experience for some time, but we are all spiritual beings coming from the abode of God. We are all son and children of God, and we need to understand that human life is an experience for us. And when we shift our paradigm, when we start seeing things with this perception, then the small problems which create space in our mind, and it affects our heart, is where we need to understand that is where we will be stuck up. And if we are understanding that yes, this is a body, it has to be regulated, then that's how we'll be able to go ahead in our life. Okay. And Krishna is saying to Arjuna, saying regulation is the real key. And this is a famous verse of Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna is trying to understand through the Dhyana Yoga. In the chapter Dhyana Yoga, Krishna is trying to explain Arjuna that Yukta Hara Viharasya, Yukta Chetasya Karmashu, Yukta Swapna Bodhasya, Yoga Bhavati Dukkha. So, Krishna is saying, Arjuna, he who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So this is where actually we need to train our mind, train ourselves. Many times we feel that, there should be no training. There should be no rules and regulations. Life should be all about freedom. But if you try to regulate your life on these four aspects, then rules are actually, the rules of freedom. Just stand one simple man on the street with all kinds of irregular habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, work, and another person who is having a regulated life. You can easily differentiate between both of them. You can see that how the other guy, the first guy is in stress, and the other guy, it may seem that he's not in stress because he has not realized that what is stress. And all of you have to realize that what is stress. So now it's our duty to regulate our life. And how do you regulate these things? Bhagavad Gita says, Yagya Shishtasano Santo Muchante Sarva Kilbishe. You have to eat. Krishna is saying to Arjuna that, people are eating food just to satisfy their taste buds and fill their belly. But Arjuna, people who are devoted to me, they try to offer a sacrifice. They offer everything to me. So what happens when a person eats irregular habits, or a person eats anything and everything which is available on the street out there? On the subtle level, on the conscious level, the consciousness of the person who has grown the food, the consciousness of the person who has transported the food, and the consciousness of the guy who's selling the food, and the one who is cooking the food, and one who is serving the food, gets all accumulated and get transformed in the food. I was studying in a very prestigious college in Mumbai, National College, and we were based on a high-class Bollywood link road where all kinds of actors used to come. And we used to have this McDonald's and everything. And one of my friend, he joined the graduation as a slim and trim boy. And by the time he got graduated, he was a fat, having a big belly, and he was like, all the way a fat boy because he was irregular in eating. He was eating everything which was available on the stalls. Sleeping is also very much important. Ayurveda says that the sleeping hours have to be regulated. 9 to 12 in the night is the time when you can actually get the best sleep. It is almost equal to 6 hours of sleep. And if you sleep later on, then the hours get reduces. Any sleep after 12 a.m. in the night is all waste. The body is not actually getting refreshed, right? So that's where sleeping is concerned. Recreation. What is recreation? Recreation is created by people for earning money, but that is not recreation. Recreation is nourishment. Nourishment to the heart, nourishment to the soul, satisfaction. So if you want a recreation, you can look out for nourishment. And what is the right nourishment one has to look for? One has to go in a way where we have to go in a way where you are balanced in your spiritual satisfactions, you are balanced in your physical satisfaction, you are balanced in your intellectual satisfaction and emotional satisfaction. When you are doing activities in relation to this four, then you are into recreation. And that is complete recreation. So Bhagavad Gita says that try to engage your mind in satisfactory activities. And the most satisfactory activities is to actually connect to God. And one last thing which is remaining is work. So work, every one of us know about karma. And it's a very deep subject matter. And we will just going to say one thing on it, that there are different types of karma. There's karma, akarma, and vikarma. And we need to perform karma, but better than karma is akarma, and better than akarma is nishkama karma. That is, do your work. Being as teachers, do your work with complete ethics and values. But attached to the results. If you're attached to the results, that will create your stress more. Okay, so that's where we understood about what Bhagavad Gita is saying. There are many points to be shared, but I hand over to Abhinav. Thank you, Abhinav.
Yeah, thank you. So over to you, Dr. Sule, on the same topic, the learnings from Quran.
Okay. As like conclusio, I can.
Yeah.
For example, yeah, the most important point is a message from the Quran. Trust in God. There is always a hope. A person is never alone because he is always with God, and God is always with us. And I would like to citate a nice capital from the Quran, Surah Inshirah. There are some magical verses. God says in this surah, after each difficulty, there is a facilitation. In that, after each difficulty, there is a facilitation. This verse is noticed 2 times. And then the main message after these 2 verses is stand up and be tired. The believers have to stand up. They have to be active in their own life, and also a relationship between each human being and God is not enough, because the human being is living with his environment and has also different tasks and responsibilities. For example, teachers have the special responsibility to teach each pupil, and also to teach herself. And if I go back to my presentation, as a small summary, there are no accidents in our lives, and therefore in each story in our own lives, in each problem, in each heavy situation, there is a small plan of God, and we can learn from these difficult situations and be a better human being. And as I also mentioned, the life is a test. Every problem, situation is temporary, and with a strong trust to God, we can manage and we can solve every problem and gain more useful meanings for our life. And also, I think if you focus on the school area and to our jobs as teachers, we have a special responsibility, as I said, and I think we as workers in our daily lives, we spend from 8 or 10 hours in our everyday life time with our jobs. Therefore, my suggestion would be to be in a work area, to do a job which we can identify us with our jobs.
Absolutely.
For example, if we don't like to be with young pupils, I think we cannot spend the whole time until 65 in one school and educate pupils with special messages. And the last thing, we can discuss very long times about this topic, but as an important message, I would like to underline the last message of Quran. We as human beings have to preserve optimism and hope, and through this point we can create a life where we have special meaning of life. And yes, I think it would be enough.
Okay.
The last point, maybe it's also noticed in Quran in several verses. We have to be thankful. We people tend to tell more problems than to tell about good things in our life, and therefore God says in Quran, if you are grateful, I will give you more. And maybe we can a little bit think about things we can thank God that we have. Okay.
Right. So yeah, thank you. I think what you tried to what you were saying is that gratitude.
Yes.
Right. So that gratitude should be there. So the last question of this webinar, that is about the techniques. Now we have talked about, we have spoken about the sayings, we have spoken about the learnings, then the definition of stress. Now the most important thing comes, like, what are those techniques as a layman? What are those techniques which I can practice to remove stress? So over to you, Brajas Prabhuji, first.
Thank you, Abhinavji. Thank you, Dr. Sule, for giving such wonderful insight from Quran. As far as technical techniques are concerned for controlling stress, so many doctors and philosophers have created so many of theses and solutions they have come up with, to control stress, and those solutions are so much available. The data and the information is so much available now and then everywhere, but those things are limited and to a certain extent. But if really you want to work on the technique of controlling or managing your stress, we need to understand that the most important thing is to work on dovetailing your consciousness, or work on dovetailing your thoughts, because as we discussed, the thoughts are the root cause of the stress, the desires. So you have to go deeper in. Definitely, there are so many, in this modern world, we are so much affected with the understanding of, the entertainment industry. The entertainment industry trains us. They are also teachers. Whatever they project on a bigger screen, we get trained on that. And the entertainment industries all project different kinds of solutions, and those people, they are into a lot of solutions like, some kind of a hug or some kind of a, laughing therapy. And you can control your stress by taking medicines. You can control your stress by regulating in your bodily actions. So definitely all these solutions are aware, but I would like to underline an important act of, taking care, balancing your stress. And that important understanding is to work on the consciousness. Try to go a little deeper, because something which shatters your consciousness is a real stress. And small stress can be managed in a day-to-day life, but the real stress which is there, which is shattering your consciousness, which is, tearing apart your heart, that worry, that anxiety, that sorrowness, that jealousy and that fear, that pride, which is sitting in the heart, that we need to manage. And that's where we do understand that this eternal soul within the body of every living entity is immortal. Therefore, one should not lament for anything. Lamentation is very much common while stress. And the technique to overcome this is bygone ages. People sages in the Himalayas, the great people who have been practicing this formula of mantra meditation. Now, you can all join with me. I'm going to share the screen, and you can sit, if you are able to, in this position, which is called the asana position. So yoga means to connect to Supreme. So how it works? So it is said that the mantra means, man means mind, and tra means a carrier. So as soon as you utter this holy syllables, the holy words of God, these words become the carrier of your consciousness. So they carry your consciousness from a particular state of mind to a spiritual state of mind. And that's where it's called mantra meditation. So you have to, now why mantra meditation? Why not a meditation just looking inward and observing yourself? And why not a meditation sitting and observing your breathing exercises? Yes, that will help you. But now we are going more deeper in the consciousness level. And we are trying to say that in this age, we don't have patience. There are so many thoughts running together. Multitasking is the biggest need of every industry in this hour of the world. Everyone is looking for multitasking. So many thoughts running simultaneously. Where is the time to sit and meditate for long hours? Right? Even a monk like me, we have so many services. So we don't have 8 hours to sit and meditate, because people are in dire need. We need to help them. So the most important and the easiest way for meditation is mantra. You sit, and as soon as you chant and focus on the mantra, and as said in Bhagavad Gita, that how does a yogi sits? The yogi sits, when he sits, his back is erect and his sitting in asana, padmasana, or sukhasana or siddhasana. And all you can, if you are free now and you are in a situation where you can sit in that way, or as you have been sitting, sit like that and close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, remove all your thoughts and just focus. Just think of this mantra. The mantra is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a 16 syllable mantra, and I'll tell you what it is. It is not a mantra which is originating from any so-called any so-called thoughts of any person's mind. This is a mantra which is coming from the bygone ages, and people have been practicing it. It is working on the spiritual level. It is like, in physics we say, in chemistry we say that, as soon as there is a element or there's a product which is in a solid state. Now, the solid state has to be converted into liquid and then it's evaporated. But the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is a sublimation process. It starts, whatever consciousness, whatever state of mind is yours, no problem. Just sit, take your beats, or you can count on fingers and close your eyes. And as soon as you chant this mantra, focusing on the hearing of the mantra, not anything else, you will be able to simultaneously do pranayama, because this is an act of chanting, which is also act of inhalation and exhalation. And slowly and immediately you will be transferred to the spiritual state of mind. A higher state will be achieved. And that's where we understand that when a person takes drugs, a student is, you might be dealing with a student who is more into addictions, and you have to try to tell that person, that the reason why a guy is into, or anybody is into addiction, the reason is hallucination. They want to go high, forget everything. So this mantra helps you to go high on a spiritual state of mind, and it will connect you to God. So let's do this one mantra now together. Close your eyes and, sit in any posture you want as of now, and you can chant behind me, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. So this is one of the technique which is very much required in this age, and there have been results. 20 people were sat in Europe in a small room, and they were left with this mantra chanting for 8 hours. And when they came out of the room, they changed their life. In the sense, they were having experiences, and I can share that video with you, all of you. And there is so much positive effect on your consciousness. So that's one of the most powerful technique to work on your consciousness. Thank you so much.
So over to you, Dr. Shule. Those techniques which help us to remove stress.
Okay. So in general, I can share with you some suggestions which can be useful. I would like to mention a saying from the Prophet. He says, following a statement, to laugh, to smile, to give a smile every day for each person is like a donation. I think it's a good attitude to be free and to go from the problems and to gain a positive attitude. And this saying is also a little bit like a magical thing, because if I smile, then my neighbor or the pupil in the school area will also smile, and so we can produce a positive environment in our life. And I think we cannot be happy if other people in the house, in the family, or in the school are sad or are surrounded with problems. I think we need a little bit solidarity to get free from this.
ನೀನೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕಿದ ಕವರ್ ಕಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಮೆಣಸಿನಕಾಯಿ ಕೊತ್ತಂಬರಿ ಬೆಳ್ಳುಳ್ಳಿ ಅಂತ ಶುಂಠಿ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಪೀಸ್ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಬಿಡಿಸಿ
Hello? Oh, can you hear me? No? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Good. Next suggestion would be to create or to produce or to gain time management, because we as teachers have a big problem with a time pressure. We have different responsibilities in our jobs and also in our private lives. And in that point, we see that religion gives, different religions give us time management, ways for the time management with regularly prayers. For example, in Islam, a Muslim prays 5 times a day, and so the regularity of this praying, for example, can also give a good point for time management, because I can use my time in the morning with a responsibility, my afternoon, and different parts of my day, and that would be a good idea. And maybe to know that we as believers, we don't have a division between sacred and secular, and I think this is also a good personal message to know that in my work I gain, for example, good ideas for my personal identity and share them also with my people in the environment. And I would like to combine this message with a saying of the prophet. He says that the best of human being is the most useful person to mankind. I think religions in general give personal advices, but I think it's only one part. I would like to underline the solidarity, the meaning of the solidarity again, and would like to underline that that egoism is not the most loved attitude of God, and that persons always can solve their problems in groups easier. For example, as teacher, if I am confronted with a problem, I can also share my problem in my colleague environment and can find solutions which also can help other colleagues in my environment. So I think this is also a good a fruit from the problem, to know that other people also can benefit from my solution can motivate me to solve other problems, for example. And yeah, if you have questions,
Yeah, sure. So we are almost done with all the questions which we wanted to cover.
Mhm.
Now, I'm getting one question which is from some teacher. So she says that the teacher and students relationship is also stressful, right? So what a teacher should keep in mind while dealing with the students. So this question is common to both of you.
Mhm.
So first, I request Rajas Prabhuji to answer this question.
Yes, thank you for asking such a wonderful question. It's a very important question, and what I believe is student and teacher relationship is like in history. I remember, the relationship of Arjuna and Krishna. So, what is the very first thing or very first understanding that a teacher will open up to a student is, the student may be very argumentative, the student may be very adamant, the student may be very he might be not, he or she might not be listening, and the
Right.
teacher is trying to work on the performance of the student, and the teacher thinks how I'm going to change the performance. And that's where the teacher has to understand and the student has to understand that there has to be a it should be a very nice relationship. Just like Arjuna, Arjuna had so many issues, so many problems, and he was not. The whole first chapter of Bhagavad Gita was all about Arjuna speaking up that why he cannot do this, why he cannot fight. He raises 5 arguments. He says that I cannot fight, I cannot kill my own relatives, I cannot if I kill people, then there will be unwanted progeny, there will be there will be a situation that you know that everyone will be bereft of father. And today is the most important day of Father's Day, and all respects to our fathers and forefathers. So Arjuna was thinking that what face I will show to the forefathers. So that's where Arjuna was trying to become compassionate. So the teacher has to understand that the student may raise such kind of issues in life. Maybe a counseling student, teacher, a psychologist teacher. They have to understand that there will be so many situations which they have to go through, and the student may take a complete charge of the teacher of not doing things. And that's where Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling to Arjuna that Arjuna, I'm speaking this knowledge, spiritual knowledge to you because you are my friend, right? So that is what is one of the most important thing that a teacher and student relationship should have, is to become a friend. Secondly, what is more important here is the teacher has to understand that one has to work on the ethics and the values. The ethics and the values are very much important in the relationship of student and teacher. 3 or 4 points on what are the ethics one has to follow is the student has to understand what kind of an instructor I want. That if the student is young, then it's parents' duty to find a good instructor. The instructor has to have ethnical values like tolerance. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying to Arjuna, Atra spastu kaunteya sitoshana sukad agam paino nityas tam statikshu bharata. Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Bharata. Bharata means he's a conqueror of the whole world. Okay, so he's not a small boy. He's well understood, and that's where Krishna says that you have to tolerate Arjuna, because this world is full of dualities. As season changes, rainy season, winter season, summer season, as seasons is this world is also having dualities. Sometimes happiness, sometimes distress. Think, that my house problems will be on the students. And it's natural that it will happen. Even the parents, when they work, even the father, when he works in the office, and nowadays it's lockdown and the father is sitting in the house. And now the father has to face the children and the children has to face father. And there's so much of stress developed. Because the nature of human being is to share the stress. And a great man is that person who doesn't share the stress, but try to the stress towards positive things. I just give a small case study. In America, in Atlanta, what happened was in 2006, this was one of the biggest issues of teachers, good teachers doing bad things. And in this issue, what happened was the American government, they came up with a policy that these schools have to perform this much. 50% results have to be done. And there were many schools where in the ghetto areas where the students were not coming from good family. And it was so tough for the teachers to, improve their performance and ask them to do, because it is an analogy or it is a study analysis done. The analysis says that in 1950s, what were the problems in these classrooms? In 1950s, the problem in the classroom where students were chewing a gum and sticking under the desk. Another problem was talking throughout the class. Another problem was disturbing the teachers by throwing an aeroplane or something like that, paper aeroplane or something. In 90s, the problem in the school classroom was students having drugs, addiction of drugs, young teenage girls getting pregnant, guns. So we need to understand that as the modern civilization, as we are trying to make ourselves more and more modern, we are running the race, but what we are getting is the modern civilization is about to train the students better way. But what is happening? So that's why the roots are in the Vedic times. The roots are in the ancient times. And we need to understand the Gurukul system, which used to exist, which got exhausted. The Gurukul system, which used to exist, we need to come back to that. So that's a different topic. What I would like to trail is quality relationships are built on principles, especially the principle of trust.
Right.
And trust grows out of trustworthiness, right? If I don't trust Abhinav, then why I'm sitting out here? If you guys don't trust me, then why are you out here? So out of the character of the person, trust comes. So that is, character is going to keep commitments. How is you develop the character? To keep commitments, to share resources, to be caring and responsible, to belong to love, to belong to people. You have to have ability of belongingness. So these are the things which are required between teacher and student. It is easier to get a fix of love than to work on being a loving person. It is sad. So we often go for illusions. What kind of illusions? Oh, I want to impress my teacher, I'm going to do that. Or I want to make an impact on the students. Instead of the reality of long-term development and growth, we just get caught up with the regular show of business. What people think? Oh, let's get the degree so I can get a job and get money and buy things, and that's how I'm successful. Steve Jobs, the guy from the Apple company, he did an amazing job by giving, Apple laptops and so many products. Now, what he did in this last time, he said that this is all there, going to be there, and somebody else is going to run. But what is my job is more to focus at the end of my life and meditate. So we learn from people that success is not money, right? So if the teacher and student want to be successful in their profession, what is important?
Right.
Values. So there is a lot to say, but we have, if we have, this is what, I feel at this point of time may satisfy to your question. I hand over it to Suleji, so, Dr. Sule.
Yeah, Dr. Shule, please, your views on this.
It's also a big capital, and I would like to summarize some points.
Yeah.
Firstly, I would like to underline that education is very important. I think in general religious perspective. For example, the first message of the Quran is read. And we can also see in different verses about the importance of the education. God asks, is the person who knows and who does not know the same? In that, no. And also there are many sayings about the prophet. For example, he in one saying of him, take knowledge if it's in China, that shows that each person should be active if we talk about education and knowledge. And in specific topic related to school, as I said, we have the person who follow this job has to love the school area, the pupils, and to teach. And if not, I think he has to change the job. And for those who are teachers and like their jobs, I think patience is very important. And also in Islamic perspective, if we look to the relationship between prophets and the people in their environment, we see really friendly relationship between prophets and people around them. Prophets, teachers, they are only persons who show ways for different kind of thinking and different point of views. And the last step of the pupil would be to see the different point of views and to follow one way which is, for example, logical in his mind and logic. And friendly relationship, as I said, is important. Authority, discipline, for example, special if I'm, for example, religion instructor. For example, in religion instructor, to be an authority person is not the the right way to teach and to gain nice results. For maybe in maths or physics, but in subjects like this, we need an equal footing, friendly relationship. So there is no authority. The teachers and pupils are in the same level and they learn from each other. Not only the teacher gives results or ideas, also a teacher can learn from his pupils. And maybe as last point, I can underline the importance of the teachers as role models. And maybe we are not only teachers in schools, we are more than this profession. We are sisters, brothers for them. We are psychologists. We are
Absolutely.
colleagues, and we have different responsibilities. And yes, I think that would be
Thank
enough.
you. Yeah, great. So my next question, which is for Rajras Prabhuji, that is about, somebody is asking, I thought that I should have asked it earlier. So that question is about the food. So when we talk about students,
Right.
should we also tell them that what kind of food they should eat, what kind of food they should not eat, considering that it may also affect the stress in them? Because I know that food plays a very important role, but now when I talk from a teacher's point of view, so how would you define the role of food about removing stress or managing the stress?
Exactly. There is a small story I'd like to tell you. This is a story of Akbar and Birbal.
Okay.
And this I used to tell all my students when I was at Govardhan Eco Village. I used to get 300 students from Mumbai every day, practically 4 days in a week, for their eco learning program. And I used to take them to the Eco Village, Govardhan Eco Village, where we used to impart them modern techniques with Vedic alternatives. And while they used to eat the food, they used to make so much of noise, and it was so chaotic. Managing a batch of 100 students at the dining area was like, fumes coming out of the head. Ultimate stress, and to make them quiet and to make them understand that what they need to know, I used to come up with this story. So I just share it. So once upon a time, Akbar Akbar was sitting in his court, and there was an announcement: Hoshyar Baad ab Bamulaiza, Shahenshah Hind Akbar Padhar Rahe Hain. Like, it's the calling, the king is arriving, and everyone is standing and then sit down. And Akbar says, start the proceedings of the court today. And here is the soldier coming up with, two guys. One is a fat man and one is a thin man. So fat man, according to the Varnashrama system, there are 4 Varna and 4 Ashram, which was started by Krishna from bygone ages. And in this Varna and Ashram, there are 2 people. One is Brahmana and one is Vaishya. So the whole society was divided into a certain system, and that got disrupted as the philosophers, they start losing their roots from the Vedic times. So this guy who was a fat man, he was a Brahmana, and the thin guy was a Vaishya, a businessman. And a Brahmana is an intellectual person, kind of a guy who can tell about astrology and help people in, living a better life, astrologically and spiritually. So this Vaishya businessman invited this Brahmana at home for lunch, because it is a custom in the Vedic times that, the wise people were invited home by the people who were working hard, and they were not having that understanding of the Vedic understandings and the learnings of the spiritual activities. So here this man was invited, and the king said, okay, that's great, they were invited, so what's the matter? So the king asked the fat man, what's the problem? So the fat man said, the Brahmana said that, this guy, this thin guy, this Vaishya, he invited me home for food, and he gave me 56 items to eat. Akbar was so happy, a broad smile came. Wow, 56 items. Wow, that's amazing. Isn't it? Every one of us like so many foods on our plates. And if we don't have one item, the child's nature is, if doesn't have one item on the plate, which the other child has, then he will be hankering for that. So remember, that is the nature of the child. You don't try to change the nature of the child. What you have to do is, you have to understand, over here in this story I'm going to tell you, is this man, this fat man, was satisfied, and after eating, he took something as parcel, that I want to take this back. So this businessman, the Vaishya man, the thin guy, he thought that why this Brahmana is such foodie, and he just told him that how much food you're eating, are you going to take everything? You're such fatty man. And he insulted him. So the Brahmana said that I'm insulted, and if I'm insulted, then this guy should be punished. So Akbar said, come on, he fed you so much. The current system of education is like that. Not what to talk about the children eating food. What we talk about, the whole system is like that, where we want others to come down. So when we talk about food, the food which the children eat in the school is actually very important. It has to be prepared with love. And that's what we are going to learn from this story. So then what happened? Akbar said, I cannot get it. So he turned towards Birbal. Come on, Birbal, tell me what's the solution for this? Who's to be punished and who not? So Birbal said, give me 1 day's time. And in the evening time, Birbal asked his wife to invite Akbar's wife, that she should come. And now Akbar's wife was, a Rajput, a lady, very angry lady. So she was invited for food in the evening, dinner. And Birbal's wife fed her with lot of items and everything. And she started saying, please eat more. This is my husband's money. It's not your husband's money. It's coming from my place. The kids, they start fighting. This is my food, that food, that food. So since the food is not having prepared with that love, and that's where, she becomes angry and she goes to Akbar and says that, you need to punish Birbal. And Akbar goes with his sword and says, Birbal, I'm going to kill you, you dirty fellow, like that. And the Birbal was like, what happened, Jabana? What's the problem? And Birbal said, Akbar said, you know everything. And that's where Birbal says, that now it comes to you, and now you have to understand that it doesn't matter what kind of food you're eating, how much food you're eating, how much food you're eating, and, maybe you may be eating in a very big hotel. The most important thing is love, the intention behind the preparation of the food, the intention behind, the serving of the food. And that's where the schools are facing problems, because nowadays the schools give food. Nowadays it's not the time when students were used to bring food from home. Now they have canteens. So the food which students are eating in the school, they need to be monitored nicely. Everyone's consciousness has to be on a very, very high level. If anybody is thinking of exploitation, the consciousness certainly get transferred in the food, and it goes in the plate of the child, and the child is suffering with an understanding of hatredness, enviness. So yes, food plays a very important role. A doctor can tell what kind of a diet has to follow, but on the consciousness level, Bhagavad Gita says, Yajna Sishtashno Santo, Muchyante Sarva Kilbeshi. That food carries a lot of karma, a lot of vibrations of people's consciousness. And once you offer it to God, do prayer. And I don't believe nowadays in canteens, students, they do prayer. They just come and they buy the food and just start eating. So the concept of praying has to be introduced. Thanking the God, and the God will remove all the karma out of it. So that's how it is.
Absolutely.
So I believe I've answered or tried to understand.
I think what we thought yesterday was that we will take this session for 1 hour, right? But the session has extended to 1 hour, more than 30 minutes. And earlier we thought that Bhagavad Gita, Quran, Bible, we will take all the scholars from all these different religions. But we have just taken 2 people, and look at the timings. I think the most important thing, the learning of the day is whatever religion it is, whatever the practices which you follow, the most important thing is the gratitude which you both have spoken in common, the love which you have just spoken at last. If these 2 things are there, stress and these all these man-made components which we have made in this society that can be managed, that can be removed also. And with this, we wind up our session today. We have a lot of questions to both of you. And people who don't know, let me just share with them that Myedubag is already having counseling sessions for the students and for the teachers. And another best part, taking your lines, there's no payment. We don't charge anything for the counseling. So whosoever want any kind of counseling, any kind of support from us, we are there to extend our hand. We will take care of you in every and any situation. So with this, thank you so much. Thank you, Rajas Prabhuji, for giving your time. Thank you, Dr. Shule. At last, there were some technical issues, but we were connected. Thank you so much. With this, we wind up our session. Thank you. Thank you once again. And thank you to all the attendees. You have our mail IDs, business@myedubag.com. In case if your question has not been answered, just throw us over there. We'll answer that. That is for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Abhinavji.
Thank you very much.
It was a very nice session.